Hi everyone, how are you doing? It's Amanda. It's the, what day is it? It's Thursday, May the, I don't know, 16th, 17th. It'll say on the date on the video, I'm sure. I've lost track of time this week because it's been a hell of a week, to be honest with you, and it's not quite over yet. But I wanted to come online to check in on how you all are. Because I firmly suspect that maybe some of what I'm going through, you also will be going through. Not the exact same story, of course, but some of the energies that are being churned up. And I feel particularly it's all a precursor to this full moon in Scorpio. So I don't always do videos linked into the moon phases. Just looking for the card for the full moon in Scorpio. But I feel as though I would like to say something about this one because, yeah, just an awful lot is coming up. And, do you know, I'm almost sometimes a little bit nervous now to share some of my stuff with you. Although I will do, of course. And it's because, I don't know, a year or so ago, I was criticised for sharing my stuff with people and treating this a bit like some sort of personal therapy session. And those person's words really stayed with me, actually, and I need to let them go because at the end of the day, do you know what the truth is? Whether you're a healer who chooses to use their life experiences to help other people understand theirs, or whether you're an artist who does the same, or a musician, or a dancer, you know, whatever you are, life is the best teacher that there is at the end of the day. And if you don't and can't reflect on what is going on in life, and then if you are a teacher, report that back, I don't think you're a very good teacher. So I will always do that. And sometimes I'll be sharing some stuff that's quite personal, but well, as much as I can. But it's always for the benefit of myself, of course, but also you. So here we go, full moon in Scorpio, and this is the Moonology deck, and that's the card for the full moon in Scorpio, which I believe is coming up on Saturday. Certainly, I don't know the exact time, you can look at that on an astrology video. I'm obviously not an astrologer. Look at one of Steve's videos, I'm sure he'll be able to tell you the ins and outs of the exact timing. But on this card, it says the full moon in Scorpio, it says it's a time to release negativity. I'm not sure whether I quite agree with the word negativity. What I do feel with this full moon is that it is a very powerful catalyst to let go of some long-standing patterns that might have been with you for a long, long time. And for me, one of the patterns that's been coming up is linked into mothering. And, you know, thank you very much. Thank you so much for all the beautiful love and the beautiful support that I've received from the community here on YouTube and also on Facebook. Just so many beautiful messages. Thank you so much. Linked into an illness that my mum is going through at the moment. And from which, over the past week, there has just been so much learning, and it's an ongoing thing. I don't feel we're through it. You know, we're not through that tunnel yet. Still very much an ongoing journey with her. But yeah, it's brought up mothering, how we were mothered, how we mother, and also bringing in the energy of the universal mother. It is no surprise to me that this whole subject is coming up for me just as we start to birth a new spray, which I'm not going to show you, it's not ready yet to go into the shop, but it's the Mother Mary spray. And it dawned on me this week that, my God, yeah, everything that's going on in my life at the moment, it's all linking into looking at mothering and having to heal the deepest wound, as well as my mother as well, having to heal her wounds. It's sort of like a generational thing. And the presence of Mother Mary and indeed Gaia, Mother Earth, has been so supportive this week. So I'd like to share a little bit in terms of things that have come up that I think you may relate to. And effectively, I'm not sure what to call this video. One of the titles that I have in my head is Who Cares for the Carers? Because I know there's an awful lot of people out there who are carers, whether they're full-time carers, whether they're part-time carers, or whether they are maybe people like me who have an independent parent, but who still has pretty much most of the day-to-day responsibility for making sure they're okay. And the thing when you are in that type of position, and I know I'm talking to some of you now very directly, maybe you've got ill parents, maybe you've got an ill child. The scenarios can be very different. But what tends to happen is that over time, because, you know, you can cope with anything for a few weeks, you can cope with anything for a few days. But when there are long-standing patterns that have gone on for years, and in some cases decades, certainly for me, decades, you find that day to day, your levels, or I've certainly found, my levels of compassion for the person that I'm trying to look after and care for can go lower than you would wish. And there are many reasons for that. Sometimes it's because self-preservation kicks in and you have to look after yourself. You always have to look after yourself. You can't look after anybody if you've got an empty cup. That's always the saying. But it's also just because it can be very tiring. It can be very draining to always have another person or situation on your mind. It's always running. It's like a program that's always running, that you can't get away from. And so the day-to-day care and attention becomes almost like an automatic. But I'd noticed in myself, and it really worried me, that I'm a very compassionate person. I'm a loving person. I genuinely care about people. I wouldn't be here on YouTube if I didn't. And yet with my own mother, I had started to get so triggered and have been working on it for years, but yet still the triggers would come up. And didn't like my reaction sometimes to the requests for help from her. But it came from a place of depletion, or it comes from a place of depletion. It comes from a place of exhaustion, to be honest, with the whole scenario. And you stick in there because you love that person. You love that person unconditionally, and you keep on going. That's what you do. So what happened last Sunday was the fact that I had pretty much the first free day that I've had in a long time, really genuinely to myself. Obviously I have free time. I'm self-employed, so if I want to, I can choose to take an afternoon off. I still work very hard. I'll probably make it up in the evening. But Sunday was a day where, I don't know, the kids were occupied. I wasn't seeing my mum. I usually always see her on a Sunday, but I'd seen her on the Saturday. So I just had a day to myself. And I remember waking up feeling just completely and utterly free. And it was almost like an unusual feeling. It was like, what am I going to do with this time? What am I going to do with the day? And I thought, I'm just going to potter. And it was a beautiful sunny day, so I went out into the garden and put my hands into the soil and started doing some pots. And then the phone rang, and it was Mum, and needing very urgent attention. And there have been a lot of false alarms over the years, so I, at that point, thought it was just another false alarm. And what descended, my mother didn't hear it, fortunately. I put the phone down and I was calm and collected with her. But then I put the phone down and the red mist just completely and utterly took me over. I don't often get really angry anymore. I've worked on that through the years. But this was a level of anger that you can only understand if you have been in a similar situation. And it comes from that moment where you feel as though you literally just cannot take any more. And I'm ashamed to say I ran up and down the stairs, you know, collecting my things that I needed to take to go to her immediately. and I was swearing like a trooper, and my youngest daughter heard it all, my husband heard it all, and at that moment I was completely out of control. The feelings that had been within me for so long, that I had suppressed and that I'd put on the face, that I'm okay, everything's okay, just came out, because it was like the volcano. I think we had the volcano as one of the cards for May, and it was like this, I think I described it as like a slow release of energy, you know, fire energy. Well, this wasn't slow. This was just like the volcano exploded. The volcano was me. And in that moment, I lost the plot. Shaking with anger, I get into the car and I think, pull yourself together. For God's sake, pull yourself together. You know, go and see what the problem is today. And at that moment, this energy came into the car, which was obviously an angelic presence. I'm sure it was Metatron and a few others. And calmness came over me within literally a second. So one moment I'm this bubbling, volcanic, angry, yucky, although yucky is judging it, it is what it was, thing, which I didn't even recognize myself. And then suddenly the energy changes and I can feel the angels around me, and it's like, you can do this. We've got you. You can do this. And I was so relieved to suddenly feel calm again. And it was like, oh, okay. It's like somebody had flicked a switch. And by the time I arrived at my mother's door, I was back into 5D. And that's important. I'm going to come back to that, because I clearly wasn't in a 5D energy when I was having this explosion of anger and frustration. And of course, what I have now, in retrospect, realised was just hurt, you know, the inner child just totally and utterly hurt and not being able to cope. Anyway, by the time I found Mum, I realised it was serious, and we called an ambulance, and, you know, she's been in hospital ever since. She may be coming out today, but, you know, even if she comes out today, she's going to have to go back in again for another operation, and it's a very uncertain path. It's a very uncertain path in terms of what lies ahead. What I learned from it, the whole thing, is that it was almost a relief from my perspective, because as soon as I realised that actually it was genuine and she needed me, and I mean, she always needs me, but this was a different level of need. It was like, you know, when it's dangerous and there is an emergency, I was able to sink into the deepest compassion. I was able to wipe her brow. I was able to sit by her side. I was able to do anything that was required of me. And that, I think, had almost been the fear, that it was like, why can't you be like that with the person who probably loves you the most in the world, actually, completely and utterly unconditionally? Why can't you be like that for that person? Why can you be like it for everybody else but not your own mother? And it had troubled me for a long time. I still think I've been a very good daughter to her, and I know she would agree with that. So it's not like I've been an ogre. I haven't. I've been very patient. But it was just this sense that, how can I not have that 5D energy with the person that needs me the most? And I realised, and it was like a flash of a thunderbolt moment, it's like we're given these relationships and situations sometimes, particularly linked into lifetimes of mastery, actually. And that links into not just the person who, like, I'm talking about myself here, maybe being on a path of mastery. I'm not saying I am a master. I'm saying I'm on a path where I'm trying to get close to that energy. But what you also have to recognise is the person that is maybe creating the challenges and the triggers and the difficulties, they too are on a path of mastery. Because actually that person that is maybe choosing to be a certain way, I can't go into all my mum's stuff, it wouldn't be fair, but the person that's choosing to be a certain way, they are serving you also to try to, for you to hone your own skills of compassion, forgiveness, patience, humility, humour, etc. And also love, of course. So it's this perfect dance that's done between two beings, or maybe more than two beings, but usually it's in a relationship that you see it so clearly. And it's been like a watershed moment, and I still feel like I'm in that watershed moment, and it feels as though this moon is very, very cathartic for probably all of us. But I think for those of us that have had situations in our life that have been ongoing for years, it's as though there is this breakthrough moment. It's like an opportunity. It's another door that is opening. It doesn't mean necessarily that the other side of the door is just like magic wand territory and everything is suddenly sorted. But the only way I can describe it is that at some point through this week, I'd been calling on Metatron, I'd been calling on my guides for help, and I heard Metatron's voice, and he said, go to this book. I'm not going to say what the book is. He said, go to a book, and he said, open it at page 46. Because I was asking, like, give me a message. What the hell is this? What? Please help me. You know, I need to understand this from a higher perspective. What is going on here? He said, go to the book, turn to page 46. So I get the book out, and the words are, the contract is finished. The contract is finished. And I knew, well, I've actually heard that twice before in my life. I've heard it once before when she nearly died about 5-6 years ago. And I thought it was, I'm talking about a contract here. I'm not talking about somebody's life. I'm talking about karmic contracts. But I think what must have happened is it's almost as though then we both went back into our old patterns. It takes two to tango. And so now I've got the second bell, basically. And it's saying the contract is finished. And what that means effectively is that coming out of hospital today and whatever the future holds, there has to be a renegotiation of relationship and how it is done to serve both parties in a different way. And I don't even know what that looks like yet. I have an idea of what it might look like. But what I do know is it can't go back to the old energies that we both had been playing for decades. And actually had been depleting me, but equally hadn't necessarily been serving her either. Here we get into huge territories in terms of codependency and more. I can't really say too much more at this point because it's personal, but certainly within the Archangel Metatron Oracle deck that is released next month, hooray, there is a card in that called Codependency, and it shows two trees. And the two trees have become entangled with each other, and like they can't properly grow because they're both leaning on each other for support. Because the truth is, sometimes you can be the one that rushes to somebody's aid to help them because you know no other pattern, even though you know it isn't helping you to do that, but it also isn't helping the other person either. But there's a reason why you're both behaving like that. And it's linked into codependency. It's linked into patterns that go back years. But it also links into lessons from that. And of course, the teaching is that both trees somehow have to learn to stand together, but yet apart. And when they are, together but yet apart. And when that is able to happen, fully happen, then each tree can grow in its own way, seek support from the other, but not in a way that becomes terribly entangled. Now, I'm not sitting here with all the answers at the moment because this isn't an easy energy. Anybody that's in a relationship where you are being asked to care beyond a certain level, it's difficult, and I've already got a few of you in your mind, and I know some of your scenarios. Another thing I've learnt this week, I'm just looking down, I've written a few notes, is the path of mastery. One of the things I'm observing is that it seems to be linked into, you may have an issue in your life, or a relationship, or a problem, or something, you know, whatever it is, and it's like you think you've healed it. Because this was the surprise with my explosion on Sunday. It was like, where the hell did that come from? I thought I was sort of okay with all this now. I thought I'd got a grip on this. You know, I've done decades of work in terms of trying to heal myself and with regard to this whole dynamic. I thought I'd done all this. What the hell was that? You know, who was that woman behaving in that way? And this is what I've written down. A path of mastery. It's like when you think you've healed it, we're just going to come in and test you again. We're just going to come in and test you again. And then what I've written down here is then you're going to have to look in the mirror. Did I like what I saw in the mirror? Did it just go upside down? I don't know whether that happened. My screen just went upside down. If it did, it's just my camera. It needs replacing. But that's quite interesting, isn't it? That it did it at that precise moment. Because I was just saying, look in the mirror. And sometimes we can see what we want to see. We can see the image that we want to see. What I was shown was actually the real image of what lay bubbling, you know, right down there in the depths of my being, that had been festering, that I hadn't properly looked at, that needed to come up and be addressed. And rather than feeling complete shame, which I did feel for the first few days, I've now gone into deep compassion, you know, and forgiveness for myself. I wasn't triggered by that phone call. I was triggered by decades of stuff that had come before, but also with the most extraordinary respect for the one person, the soul that is my mother, who in this lifetime has put her hand up and said, I will be that person that creates an environment for you to learn and to look so deep and so thoroughly at various qualities that you need to refine. I will do that, and I will stay in a place that is actually pretty uncomfortable until you get it. And so the contract is finished. I hope that that explosion and then the peace that followed was the end of it, and that we can build a new life and a new story somehow in a different way. I'll let you know. So yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is that I'm pretty sure for May we had the tower, and for me what I have felt is that we always think it's going to be an external tower, you know, something that's done to us or an event that happens maybe in the collective. Maybe that still might happen, I don't know, we're not through May yet. But for me it was like an internal tower moment. It was like the facade, the face that I'd put on, that everything's fine, fell. And it's like, oh, okay. I thought I'd healed this. I clearly hadn't. With Metatron, he often will heal you, I don't know, 80%. And then there's that stubborn bit you sort of have to really work through on your own, with his support, of course. But you have to look at yourself. So we'll see. Full moon in Scorpio. As I say, thank you for all of those of you that have sent love to me and my mum. She's a lovely lady, very gentle, very kind. And one day I will say more. There's just been so much learning from her, and I bless her and I thank her for that. But it's been a very, very uncomfortable week, and yeah, I'm not through it. So let's pull a couple of cards linked into this full moon in Scorpio. Let's see what Metatron wants to say. Oh, I must just tell you one other thing, because this is just so perfect. I've just told you my story and my experience of being the daughter and having this moment with my mum where, you know, the behaviour wasn't great. So one of the days I go into hospital to see mum, and I'm walking out and I'm going to the car park to, you know, get my ticket, parking ticket. And there's a lady in front of me in the corridor pushing what looks like her mother in a wheelchair. And I just get there at the moment when the daughter starts to snap. And she says something along the lines of, "This is the last time that I am bringing you in." This is the last time something like that. At that moment, she hits a bump, you know, on the path. And the lady in the wheelchair goes, oh, something like that. The daughter doesn't even see it because I can see she's got the red mist. I saw it. It was like, again, looking in the mirror, I could see what Metatron was doing. I nearly went up to the daughter and said, it's okay. And to the old woman and said, it's okay. But I thought, no, stay out of it. Because in the moment when the red mist rises, you don't want to hear anything, okay? You don't want to hear anything. You know, when the red mist was rising with me and my husband was saying, don't speak like that in front of Sophie, I told him where to go, you know? You don't want to hear it. You're not in 5D. You are, I'm not even sure you're in 3D. You're probably lower than that. You've gone to almost like an animalistic state where, but it's from a place of total overwhelm, you know? But yeah, I saw that lady with the wheelchair and the mum, and I knew that I was going to say Metatron, what Metatron was doing, but it's also been Mary, Mother Mary, coming in to bring up to the surface these deep wounds that exist between mother and child. And if it isn't healed, you've got to look at it. Much support will come, I know that, going forward. Mary's influence is going to be becoming stronger and stronger and stronger to help all of the inner child that is damaged, to help all mums. That's the point. That's what's so beautiful about it. She came in this week to help me with myself, with my reaction to my mum, but she's also right there with my own mother, you know, and probably other ancestors down the female line. It's so stunningly deep and beautiful. The other thing I've written down here, which isn't particularly related, but I do want to bring it in, is if we're really healing the deepest wound, and for you it might not be your mum, it might be something else. Maybe the red mist has come related to something else, some other long-standing thing that you've been trying to heal, but it's just somehow you haven't quite got there yet. One thing I've noticed myself is that I've mentioned this before, I'm completely and utterly detached from particularly all the political dramas that are going on in the world. Doesn't mean I don't care. It just means it's like I can't put my energy into them. If you ask me to do a reading right now on Donald Trump, it's like there is no enthusiasm, there is no energy, or Brexit, any of them. It's like I can't go there. And I'm seeing now it's because I need my energy. I need the energy for this work. This work is big, that I'm being asked to do and that you're probably being asked to do as well. And so therefore, if all our energy is going off to something else, I really feel right now, and it might just be now, it might be in a month's time, it's different. Now we need the energy for ourselves. Because if you're depleted, you're not going to be able to heal it, okay? But the biggest thing, the biggest part of the healing is you have to feel it, and you have to acknowledge those feelings, and particularly the ugly ones. It's not necessarily a pretty process that's going on for many people right now, but it is the truth. And then from that moment of truth, you then deal with it. You then try and rebuild in some other way. The tower has fallen. Now what are you going to do? That probably will be June's energy. Actually, I want to pull a card from the Sacred Rebels deck by Alana Fairchild. They've really been so accurate this week. I've been using them. So let's see. Let's just have one card. Let's have a spray. Oh, what spray do we need? Probably all of them. Probably all of them, but I'm going to go for Gabriel. Archangel Gabriel. It's interesting, the depiction of Mother Mary that we've got coming up on our new spray, she's young. It's her as a much younger woman. And it takes you right back to when you first learn your calling. And of course, Gabriel is the one that comes in as the messenger, isn't he? He's the messenger angel. I was chatting to one of you via email yesterday, and you were in a similar situation to me, not with your mother, but with some. And you said something along the lines of, I can't let this ongoing situation stop me from my purpose, my calling, my work, whatever it is you're meant to be doing with your life. What do I feel about that now? Because I completely understood that, and I felt that myself many, many times. I've said to Metatron, it's like, you want me to do this work? Help me out. Sort out some of these issues that are around me that are taking so much of my time and my energy, so that I can't do what you want me to do. Not to the, I mean, I do quite well, I think, but not to the degree that I know he wants me to do it. Help me out. And then he stands back, and I'm like, what the hell are you standing back for? You know, he stood back this week. I had a few moments of clarity with him, like the moment, you know, turn to page 46, that the contract is over. But other than that, I knew he was stepping back. Why? Because I was meant to do this myself. And also because this is part of my life. We can't push it away and pretend it's not. That's why I wanted to come on and talk about it. I can't just come back onto YouTube and not and just do, okay, we're now going to channel David Bowie. That's compartmentalizing your life into, this is work, and this is sort of me other than work. Me other than work, including all the stuff with mum, or you with your dad, with your brother, whoever. There's no separation, it's all life. Right, let's have a card. I hope I'm making sense. I wanted to pop in anyway and say hello. Let's have a card, please, for everybody watching. And these feel such a feminine deck that I feel I'll ask Mary. So Mary, please let us have one card from you. Mother Mary. That's Mother Mary. Needing you now more than we ever have. So many people needing your energy and your help. Helping us to heal these wounds, these relationships, these dynamics, these patterns. Let's just have one message from you via these cards. The perfection of your life. Yeah, I understand that. I understand what she's saying. It's starting to understand that everything is actually as it's supposed to be. Every part of it. The challenge, the difficulty. It's all part of life. And in its own way, perfect. Because I am tired, I'm going to read you well, I'm not going to read you the whole message. I'm just going to read you the main bit of this card. It says, have you ever seen a storm pictured from above? It can appear to be so beautiful and elegant. This is certainly different to the ground view, which can be quite a violent experience. So too there is great beauty in your life now. However, at this point in the natural process, you may be experiencing it as anxiety-inducing rather than beautiful. You may sense it as internal chaos. You may feel it as something that is waiting to erupt from within. Hello? As a restlessness or an anxiety that you cannot quite articulate, but sense vaguely nonetheless. Perhaps the chaos is fully fledged, and a person or situation in your life is causing all kinds of havoc, upheaval or change and uncertainty in your world. Whether the chaos seems subtle, strong, internal or external, this oracle brings the same message for you. All is unfolding according to a perfect higher order. You are currently enduring a cosmic spiritual storm which is having an impact on you. For that lovely on you, it is clearing things out, ruffling feathers, and preparing you for that lovely, super fresh, uplifting feeling that one experiences after the storm has passed. Well, yeah, I'm not going to read all of it, but that makes complete sense, doesn't it? I will just say one other thing. that I just feel is so symbolic. And I know my mum won't mind me sharing this because she's a very intuitive lady, and she loves my work as well. You know, she'd want me to help other people with what's happening at the moment. So without going into exactly what's happened to her, she got a blockage basically, and in her intestines and bowel, that's what happened. And it was the result of scar tissue. And if you think about scar tissue that we carry around, either on our where you can see it, or internally. What's so interesting about what's happened with Mum is that her scar tissue, they believe it's decades old. It goes back to an operation she had when she was about my age, probably nearly 25 years ago. And all of a sudden, that scar tissue right now, at this divinely timed moment, for her to clear it, and for me to experience her clearing it, and then look at my reactions to it, it happens now. So there's something here about old scars that we've been carrying, whether they're emotional, whether they're physical, whether they're mental. It's as though now is the time. Now is the time to release with this full moon. But as I say, for me, it's been the whole of the week. So I think there's been a build up to it. And I think, well, I'm not being shown a time frame, but I certainly feel as though it goes into next week as well. Metatron said May will be a month to remember. And it's starting to make an awful lot of sense now, for many different ways. But for me personally, and I think probably for a lot of you as well, this is a very, very powerful moment where it's like, I want to say the shit hits the fan. And yeah, there's a bit of a joke there, not at my mother's expense, because poor sweetheart has been in so much pain. But we're talking about blockages and bowel blockages. Think of that. There has to be, you have to let go. I actually think my mother has been healing not just herself personally, and she's still not healed. It's an ongoing situation, but I think this is collective as well. I mean, come on, I'm here on YouTube now, I'm talking about this, I'm sharing it. I'm doing it, I know, with her higher self's permission, and also her normal self's permission. Her experience means something right now, and I'm honouring it. So what can you do? You can try to let go this weekend of those deepest wounds, but you're never even going to get anywhere near healing it unless you really feel it. Let's have one more card. So that was a card from Mary, to see the perfection in your life, to realise that the storm is overhead, but that at higher level, the storm actually, it's like there's a divine order to it. On the ground, it's messy. Can't believe that. Well, I can believe the card. Of course I can. I was thinking, okay, we've had a card from Mary. I'd like a card from Metatron. Diving for Light, card number 11. Metatron's number 11. What's Metatron about? He's about light. Just going to see if somebody picks that phone up. That could actually be Mum. Hold on, guys. Sorry, yes, that was Mum. Right, so I was reading Diving for Light, card number 11. Metatron's message. And then I better get on. I've got some things to do for her. Number 11, Diving for Light. How brave you are. You are diving for light. It can be so much simpler to seek light in the heavenly, in that which is blissful, sweet, loving and kind. To look for the light in that which is dark is an advanced task that only a rebellious and brave heart will attempt. Are you hearing that? You may not feel that you have taken such a journey by choice, yet you have taken this wise challenge on from deep within your soul. Your innermost being has evoked this situation in your life with the intention that you grow in power, wisdom and creative juice. It also wants you to experience a bold and fearless trust in life and become further empowered to live it with zest and courage. The oracle of diving for light speaks of a time when you are called into darkness through life circumstances, situations, relationship challenges, or inner struggles that defy clear understanding. That darkness may be a creative block, a sense of being in a void, or feelings of depression, rage, sadness, fear, or anxiety. There may or may not be an obvious cause. The darkness might be generally accepted and socially acknowledged because there is a socially acceptable or obvious reason for it, such as death, divorce, or retrenchment. However, there may be no obvious justification for your experience of darkness. You might not need a reason to be able to accept it. Likewise, you may struggle to find an unconditional acceptance of your experience. Just know that you are actually on track and right where you need to be. It says our creative process and our spiritual path go through a similar turning of the wheel of progress. There is spring and summer, and in the seasons of our soul as well as in the earthly ones. When diving for light, one must be willing to bear the darkness and understand it has a purpose, much like winter does upon the earth. It is not in error or through lack of consciousness that you are here now. It is testament to your spiritual growth, not a sign that you are lacking or stalling. The healing process below will help you. Okay, it takes into another, it goes on for another couple of pages. The gist of it, and I know why Metatron wants us to speak on it, is that he's trying to make us appreciate that when you go through difficulties in life, it's sometimes that's where the richest growth comes. It's where the richest lessons are, but it's not necessarily a particularly comfortable ride. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope you're doing well. Oh, maybe I should pull you a moon card. Let's just pull you a moon card. But yeah, hopefully I will be back to it next week, but I will have to see how things go, where we're at. But I will always keep in touch. So let's have one card here, please, then. To go with the full moon in Scorpio, what other energy do we have? And I'm asking this of Metatron, that one. Your hard work is paying off. Okay, so that's a bit like a bit of an encouragement at the end, that whatever it is that you are going through right now, being challenged by, having to support, being in pain over, being upset over, that actually the hard work is paying off, that you are making progress, that you are shifting, and that Spirit sees that. I've no idea where the new moon in Capricorn is. Maybe we've already had it, I don't know, but it is the card for the new moon in Capricorn. It also, on the bottom of the pack, we've got work through your fears, which is the new moon in Scorpio. So like a double Scorpio energy, wow. Scorpio is pretty powerful enough on its own, but here we've got 3 cards and 2 of them have got the energy of Scorpio in them. So hang on in there. May is a month to remember, absolutely. Keep going, keep breathing through it. Be kind to yourself. Realise that all things pass, and when all else fails, realise that you are bigger than any problem that you are being presented with, and that angels and the spirit are always around you, and stay in your heart as much as you can also. Much love. Thank you, as I say, for all your good wishes for my mum. It's very appreciated. Love you all. Speak to you soon. Bye for now.